Welcome to the leadership class. First, let's talk about the agenda of this training. We are going to be looking at leadership foundation. The training is divided into three parts. First is the leadership foundation. The second one is practical leadership development. The third one is the actionable steps towards leadership development. For the first part, we'll be breaking leadership foundation down by looking at introduction to leadership, defining what leadership is. And then we will look at what are the characteristics of leadership. What are the things that characterize good leader? And then we will take it further by looking at the call to leadership with a special focus on spiritual leadership. You are called as a leader to serve as a leader, even in the church or whichever organization that you find yourself. So leadership is a calling. And then we will take it further to look at other things. So let's move on as we break this course down into details. All right, now let's start by looking at leadership foundation, the foundation for leadership. And then, of course, in discussing leadership foundation, it's important that we understand what leadership is. And then, of course, we will introduce this subject of leadership, the leadership in ministry. So, leadership is at its core the ability to influence and guide others towards a shared goal. The key thing here is the shared goal. Every leader has a goal. So, whether you are a church leader or you are a business leader or you are a leader over a corporate organization, there is a common goal that brings people together. And then, of course, your assignment is to lead people towards achieving this shared goal. So there is a common interest, there is a common goal that brings people together. So the work of the leader is to make sure that he influences these people towards achieving this common goal. So effective leaders possess quality such as integrity, vision, and empathy. So if you must drive people towards achieving a common goal, the people are looking at you. Do you have the character? Do you have the personality? Do you have have you been able to show enough character traits that will show that yes, you can lead these people? Because every leader needs to be trusted. Okay, for you to lead people effectively, trust is key. So if people are following you as a leader and they can't trust you, then there's a problem. So the integrity is very important. And then the leader must have vision. Okay. You can't drive people towards a common goal without showing a big picture. And then empathy, because people that will follow you have have different things about themselves, have personality, interest, situations, and all those things. So empathy is very key. So for those in ministry, leadership takes on a spiritual dimension. For a pastor, for a minister of the gospel, for a general overseer, leadership is all about serving others. Okay? So if you must be a great leader in ministry, then you must understand that you are there to serve, that you are not there to rule. You are not a ruler, you are not a controller, you are not a boss. You are there to serve because you have been called into ministry to serve. Okay? And then, apart from serving, you also want to model Christ like behavior. And this is a very big thing. For every corporate organization, we have what we call corporate culture. We have what we call corporate culture, where every person within that organization have a belief system. The organization has what controls how people behave and what people do within the corporate culture. So if a person is appointed as a leader to lead in a corporate organization, This person wants to drive the corporate culture and ensure that people keep to them. Then, as a spiritual leader, as a pastor, your corporate culture will be the Christ-like behavior. So you can't be a leader. So that's why we have a lot of abuse in the ministry today, where we have someone who is supposed to model Christ-like behavior, but showing a different character, and thus people losing trust in leadership or in that person's leadership. So a leader, a spiritual leader, is there to model Christ-like behavior. And then, of course, stewarding the gifts and responsibilities entrusted to him as a leader. That is very, very important. That's very important. And it's key for leaders to understand that, look, you can't go into church leadership, spiritual leadership, without understanding that, look, this is not a corporate thing, this is a spiritual thing. So if there is anything that you must keep, is to ensure that you keep the Christ-like behavior, show integrity, show Christ-like behavior, and be responsible to people and even to God who call you. Wow, great, great, great. We are moving on. Now we're going to move from this dimension to now look at defining leadership. We need to understand what it really means to be a leader. To come into great leadership, a leader needs to understand, what am I here to do? What is my responsibility? So, for every subject matter we get into, defining that subject is very important, because if you don't know who you are and what you are here to do, then doing that thing becomes very difficult. So, follow me back into the class as we look at defining leadership. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to be talking about is defining leadership. We need to define leadership. So leadership is not about title, it is about influence. Okay, so coming into leadership is very important, that we understand that we are not here to carry title. It is your responsibility to influence people, not title based responsibility. So if you are looking for title, then be a manager, be a ruler, you know, all those titles where people will become whatever they are, and then they say, I have now achieved the height of my goal, and I will show people. So you are not to show people, you are not to intimidate or do anything to hurt anybody. Leadership is influence. So, and then of course, as part of your influence, you also want to impact people positively. Leadership in ministry is not merely a position, but is a calling. Okay, leadership in ministry is a calling. So, if you are ever called a leader in the things of God, understand that you are in a service. Okay, every person called into ministry work is a servant, just like the the corporate ministry, where we have ministries and where we have civil servants. So the people within the corporate ministries know, or the agencies, the government agencies and all those stuff, know that every person within that space is a civil servant. In other words, you are called to serve. Now, in the church ministry, the church assignment or ministry assignment, you are called by God. You have a primary responsibility to fulfill one assignment, and that is what God has told you to do. And so it's not a position, and you need to understand that. And I need to emphasize that it's not a position, because many people miss this aspect. It is not a position, it is a calling. Okay? You will be placed on a position, but that doesn't mean that you are there to utilize your authority over people's life and trample upon them. No. You are there to serve people. You are there to do the particular thing that God has given to you to do. Now, let's talk about the characteristics of um, effective leader. So, when we talk about effective leadership, there are things that characterizes um, what who a leader is and what defines a person as an effective leader. The first one, of course, is vision. Vision. Every leader must have a vision. Vision is seen as a bigger picture. Now, within your organization, within your church, you are the only one that knows what the organization should be, where the organization is going to, what you will do to get to where you are going to. You, as the leader, is the one that has the bigger picture. That's what is called bigger picture. So, whatever it is that the assignment of that church or that organization is, it lies in you. You have, so that's why when you sit down, your your responsibility is not about, oh, how are we going to fix the microphone? Oh, how now I'm talking about church now. How are the choir going to stay? How is this? How is that? Or maybe in the corporate organization, you are you are bothered about, oh, how is the receptionist going to come in and sit? How how are the managers going to do that? No, 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 no. You think about bigger picture, the vision of the organization, and in explaining the vision, you have team, you have people within the organization that will work with you towards the achievement of that bigger picture. And so it is your responsibility to inspire them towards that shared future. Okay? That is what makes you a visionary leader. When you go to any organization and you observe that this is missing, then you know there's a problem. Because how do you explain an organization without a vision? How do you explain a leader that is running an organization and they say, and then you ask the people or one of the members or one of the person in the organization, what's the vision of this organization? Vision, we are just here to work, finish our work and close and go home. Or we're just here to come to church, do service, sing and dance and go. That's a big problem. That's a very big problem. So because that means that the leader, it's either the leader is not communicating that vision or he doesn't even have that vision in the first instance. Then the second thing that characterizes effective leadership is adaptability. A leader must be adaptable, must be able to embrace change and innovate to meet new challenges. We have a lot of people whose reason for not growing is because they have not been able to adapt to changes around. And you can't be a good leader if you are not dynamic in nature, if you are not adaptable, if you don't know how to switch from one role to another role, to switch from one generation into another generation, to cope with changes, constant changes that are happening around you. I mean, in my profession, one of the things that I've always done year in, year out is to see what is happening, to see changes around me and plan towards these changes. And that's why it doesn't come by surprise. To me, it's always like I'm ready. Let me share an example. Some years back, what used to be our approach to training in our organization was physical training. We invite people, they come to our office, we train them, or they come to our venue, we train them. And then they go or they invite us to their organization and we train them. But as time went by, I saw the need to adapt to the changes that was happening. We're seeing decline in attendance of participants in most of our training, and things were changing. Then I started a project. I started creating um, um, digital contents. I started doing things, I created a website and I started having digital contents. And it was a very serious work. I worked in and out, night and day, midnight, creating content. And before we knew what was happening, COVID swept in, and people were talking about, oh, virtual, but we were already there. Many of us were already there. We're using technology that was not very popular. At that time, it wasn't popular. For instance, Zoom was not popular, but was existing. We had remote desktop connectivity, and we're using it to do remote meetings and all those stuff. And then when the wind of change came, it was easy for us to migrate. And so business was like nothing changed. So we started, and then most of the content that were created were now uploaded into international platforms where people were now buying the courses, online. And that put us in that. So a leader must embrace change and must be innovative. You must be able to meet new challenges. You must know that things are changing and you must be ready for that change. Okay, was ready for that change. And so time goes by the time we're closing 2024, I was already looking at what is going to change in 2025. What are things that the business must begin to adapt into? What are the things that the ministry must begin to look at? And what's the direction that it should begin to go? So, all these things were things that were put in mind, looking at business, looking at ministry, looking at family, looking at every other aspect of one's life. So, you must be adaptable to change. The other thing is you must be humble. As a leader, a leader must prioritize the needs of others and learn from feedback. So, if you don't get feedback, there's no way you can innovate or embrace change. And that's one of the things that I always tell people. If you prioritize the needs of people, you are open up to feedback. You see people coming to you telling you, look, Pastor, things are changing. Pastor, let's have a YouTube channel. Pastor, let's have a Facebook page. Let's have an Instagram store. And you are saying, no, we are physical prayer church. We can't just be doing all those Instagram things. Because people will now go and be sitting down and they'll say they're attending. No, you as a leader must understand that things are changing. While you maintain your status quo, you also need to open up to changes. And then a leader must be courageous. Very, very important. Leader take bold steps and make difficult decisions, even with conviction. So um changes come with serious decision. Okay, so if you are going to make changes in life, then it comes with very serious responsibility to take to make decision. So if you are a leader that's not courageous, you'll be afraid of what's going to happen. What will people say? How will they think? What will they say is going to happen? And all these factors will disturb your decision making process. So you need courage. You need to be convinced also. So when you are making difficult decisions, be convinced, be led by the Spirit of God as a pastor, especially when it comes to church thing, even as a Christian business person or as a religious person who is doing business. If you don't believe in God, then you have a lot of struggle in life. You must be convinced, you must be guided. You must have this personal conviction that what you are doing, the step you are taking, is taking you into the right this direction. I've made very difficult decisions in life, and I know and I'm courageous that I'm convinced that God is leading. Sometimes it takes me 2 years, 3 years before I will even make take step in that decision. But definitely, once I take that step, I know that I'm properly guided. Okay, so as a leader, you have to be courageous. Then the last one, here, the last one, we have quite a lot. I'm just limiting it to these key five um, features or characteristics of an effective leader. And that is servant-hearted. They lead by serving. The leader lead by serving. They foster trust, and then of course, collaboration. So if you don't have a servant heart, If you don't understand that what you are there to do is to serve, then you will not be able to foster trust or collaboration, because people will look at you as a ruler and they will leave you to your thing. Okay. So you need to let people know that you are there to serve them. Okay. So I may just quickly add one by just saying the leader communicates, and it's very important. So for every good leader, communication is very important. Although I'm still going to talk about communication in other aspects of this training, I just want to quickly chip that in just to let us understand that communication is also key, because if you have a vision and you don't know how to communicate that vision or to even communicate the change with your people, then there's going to be a problem in having common understanding between you and your people. Okay, so now the third thing that we want to look at is call to leadership. So we understand, and like we said, that leadership is a call, okay? And that we must understand. Leadership is a call. So the leader, to fulfill his call, must have a shepherd heart, must be a person that is filled with compassion, okay? That's whether you are in corporate organization or you are a spiritual leader. Compassion is very important because you are leading people, you are guiding people, and then you must inspire through example. Must be a person that can inspire through example, and then you must guide with wisdom. So leadership in ministry, particularly, is not merely a position, but it's a calling. So it begins with deep conviction that God has chosen you to shepherd His people, to inspire them to grow in faith and guide them towards living out purpose. So we've said this a lot, and of course we can't overemphasize it. You as a leader needs to understand that whatever it is that you are doing is a calling. So even if it is a corporate organization, it's still a call. So if you don't see God in everything you are doing, then you are missing a very vital or important thing about life and existence. So your leadership responsibility is a call. All right. So we'll come back again and look at other subject matter under this leadership um, development for spiritual leader and of course a corporate leader. So see you in the next session, and bye for now.